It is my pleasure this morning to be introducing you to our very special author. R.L. Stine is one of the best-selling children's authors in history. In July 1992, Scholastic introduced the very first Goosebumps book. The whole series began with the book Welcome to Dead House. Nearly 25 years later, Goosebumps is now one of the best-selling children's series of all time. With more than 350 million English language books in print, plus an additional 50 million international copies in print in 24 different languages. The Goosebumps series made R.L. Stine a worldwide publishing celebrity. His other popular children's book series include Fear Street, Mostly Ghostly, The Nightmare Room, and Rotten School. Other titles include It's the First Day of School Forever, A Midnight Scream, Young Scrooge, and he has written 2 picture books illustrated by Mark Brown, The Little Shop of Monsters and Mary McScary. His books have also inspired programs and movies. The Goosebumps TV show was the #1 children's show in America for 3 years, and the episodes can still be seen on streaming services. And the feature film Goosebumps, based on his book series, was released in theaters in October of 2015. The sequel, Goosebumps 2: Haunted Halloween, will be released in just a couple of weeks. R.L. Stine lives in New York City with his wife Jane, who is an editor and a publisher, and he is here with us today. Please join me in welcoming R.L. Stine.
You put me near Slappy.
I did.
I was
going to
sit over there.
He scared me a little bit. So
What?
when they asked me
Slappy is evil. I don't really like sitting next to him.
Yeah, we're kind of hoping he'll just stay there.
How nice to be here today. How many of you have ever read a Goosebumps book? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Quite a few.
Nice. And how many of you saw the Goosebumps movie with Jack Black playing me, right? Jack and I are like twins, don't you think? What do you think? Not quite.
Fabulous. Okay, so I've got a really important question for you. In the exchanges that we have been having with colleagues about this program, I was asking, how could I introduce you? Do I call him R.L.? Do I call him Robert? Do I call him Mr. Stine? And they said, he goes by Bob. So I've got a question. On all your books, you're R.L. Stine.
Yeah, no one ever called me R.L. in my life. No, I used to be funny. I wrote joke books for a long time. I just wrote joke books. Here, you want to hear one of my best jokes? Want to hear a joke? Yeah. All right, it's a kid's joke. It's a kid's joke. What do you get when you cross a dog with a frog? You get a dog that can lick himself from across the room. That's it. See, now I made a living with jokes like that, and I
It's great. I love it. I love it. But so at 9 years old, you started writing jokes and stories using that typewriter?
I found this old typewriter, I dragged it into my room, and I started writing stories, little joke books, funny things, stories, and I'd be in my room for hours, typing. I don't know why. Why did I find it so interesting? I don't know. And my parents didn't understand it at all. My mother would stand outside my door, and she'd say, "What's wrong with you? Go outside and play. Go outside." And I'd say, "It's boring out there." Type, 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 type.
And when we go into the card catalog here at the library and try to get a sense of how many books has a particular author written, we're used to seeing, a handful. Well, when we did a search on R.L. Stine in the library's catalog, we found hundreds of titles. So we're curious. Where do all of your ideas come from?
I don't know. Where do they come from? Where do your ideas come
Well,
from?
and how do you
we
keep
all
track
get
of them?
ideas, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Here, I will tell you, how many of you have read The Haunted Mask? Or have you seen the TV show of The Haunted Mask? That's a Halloween story.
Yeah.
It's about a girl named Carly Beth who wants to be scary at Halloween time. And she tries on this very scary mask, and it sticks to her face. And she can't get it off, and it becomes her face, and it turns her evil. And I will tell you where the idea came from for that story.
Yeah.
It actually came from my son Matt when he was a little guy. It was Halloween, and I was watching Matt. He was down on the floor trying on a green rubber Frankenstein mask. And he pulled it down over his head, and he couldn't get it off. And I'm watching from the doorway, and he's down there, and he's tugging, and he's tugging. And I thought, what a great idea. I should have helped him, right? Instead, I went and started making notes and saying, oh, great idea for a story.
Perfect.
And poor Matt is still in the mask.
Yeah.
It's a very sad story.
All these
That's
right
where that
there.
one came
I
from.
love it.
You never know where you're going to
That's
get
right.
ideas.
You're right.
One day I was walking my dog in the park, and these words popped into my head. Say cheese and die. I thought, what? Wait, what? Why? Why did those words? And then I started thinking, well, what if there was an evil camera? What if some kids discovered the camera? And what if the camera took pictures of bad things that happened to you a little bit in the future? And that's how that book, Say Cheese and Die, got started, just from those words. You know, the very first Goosebumps book was Welcome to Dead House.
Yeah.
And I think it's the scariest book of them all, because I didn't quite know what I was doing. It was the first one I ever wrote. And it doesn't have the funny stuff. I always like to do a book that's scary and funny at the same time. And this one is just scary, I think. Yeah. The second one, Stay Out of the Basement, I found that has funny stuff in it.
Yeah.
I figured out what I was doing.
was
This
gonna
is
say,
amazing to see.
Yeah, we thought you'd get a kick
Yeah,
out
I've
of
never
that.
seen anything with
Yeah.
copyrights.
We put a copy of it up on the
not-
screen so you guys could see. It's just a 2-page form,
Yeah.
but we have lots of them. So
I guess that's a good thing.
that is a good thing.
Yeah.
So when you wrote that first Goosebumps book, did you imagine it would become a series with more than 60
No, I said
titles?
when we wrote the first one, I said, oh, we'll do 2 or 3.
Yeah.
That was it. I
Yeah.
didn't know people would like it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I wanted to be funny.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand it at all. And I used to go to schools and I'd say, why do you like these books? And kids always said, we like to be scared. And so I thought, okay, forget the funny stuff. I'll be scary from now on.
So do you guys like to be scared? Do you think that...
I don't know. I think that was a yes or no question.
I was going to say, I think it got a
Yeah.
reaction, didn't it? I think it means that they would love it if you would tell us a scary story.
Well, you know, it's almost Halloween. I'm going to stand up.
Okay.
They took away my
Yeah,
podium.
I was going to say.
It
We could probably
vanished.
get the podium back if you wanted
Vanishing
it
podium,
back.
but I'm going to stand up anyway and see if I can come over here. Nope, the light's terrible. And I'm going to tell you, let me ask you a question first. How many of you have ever seen a ghost? How many? No, I mean a real ghost, not on television, not in the movies. How many? Who has seen a real ghost? Okay, that's a lot. Well, maybe I saw a ghost once. I don't know. I'm going to tell you can just help me decide. I'm going to tell you a true ghost story that happened to my brother Bill and me when we were kids back in Ohio. It was Halloween time, and Bill and I were very excited because it was the first Halloween that we were allowed to go out trick-or-treating without our parents. We were going out by ourselves for the first time. And we both got dressed as ghosts. We put sheets down and we cut out eyes, and we were very scary ghosts. And we got shopping bags, big shopping bags, to collect for all the candy we were going to collect. And I took a can of that silly string, you know that stuff? You squeeze it and the string comes out. Just in case we had to string somebody. And I tucked it into my costume, and Bill and I went outside. It was a cold October night. I remember it was that kind of cold that like clings to the back of your neck. The ground was all crunchy hard from the frost. There was a tiny sliver of a moon, half covered in cloud, high in the sky. And Bill and I, we always started out trick-or-treating at Mrs. Dawson's house across the street. And that was just our tradition. We always started there. But now I looked across the street, and her house was completely dark. I said, I guess she's not home, Bill. We'll have to go on without her. So we started at the next house and started trick-or-treating down the block. My family was very poor. We lived in a tiny little house on some blocks of very tiny houses, which was great at Halloween time because it meant you didn't have to go up any long driveways, you didn't have any long walks, you could just go from house to house. So Bill and I, we went 3 or 4 blocks down, and then we went 3 or 4 blocks and came back. And by the time we came back, our bags were just bulging with candy. And I looked across the street, and I saw a light on in Mrs. Dawson's front window. I said, Bill, I guess she's back. Let's go over there. So as we went up her driveway, I could see it wasn't a light. It was a big jack-o'-lantern with a big grin on its face, bright yellow fire inside it. And we walked up and got on Mrs. Dawson's front stoop, and I knocked on the door, and we waited. She didn't come. So I knocked again, and I rang the bell. She didn't come to the door. Bill said, she's in there, Bob. Go ahead, string her. So I took out the silly string, and I raised it to her door, and then I stopped. I stopped and I froze because I saw the jack-o'-lantern in the front window had changed. It wasn't yellow anymore. It was a bright scarlet red, and it had a big frown on its face, a big scowl. And I dropped the can of silly string, and Bill and I started to run down the driveway. We were halfway down the driveway when the front door swung open, and Mrs. Dawson came out. I remember she was in this gray nightgown, this long gray nightgown. I remember it fluttering in the wind, fluttering. And she said, "Why did you wake me? Why did you wake me?" And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Dawson. I didn't know. I'm really sorry. But can I ask you one question? How did you do that with your jack-o'-lantern?" And she said, "Jack-o'-lantern? I don't have a jack-o'-lantern." And Bill and I looked in the front window. It was completely dark. Nothing there. Well, we ran across the street, went up to our room. We dumped out all the candy. We divided it all up. We never mentioned it again. We didn't mention the jack-o'-lantern. We didn't say a thing about it. The next morning, I woke up and I thought, you know what? I should apologize to Mrs. Dawson. We woke her up. That wasn't right. So I got dressed for school, had breakfast, and then I went across the street to apologize, but there was a big truck in Mrs. Dawson's driveway, and these men going in and out of her house. And I went up to one of the workers, and I said, "What's going on?" And he said, "I guess you're getting new neighbors, kid." I said, "Why? What do you mean?" He said, "Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't you hear? Mrs. Dawson died 2 weeks ago." That's my true ghost story. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I
do you
think we liked
wait.
that story.
Well, do you think maybe I made up part of that true story? What do you think? Do you think maybe I made up a lot of that true story? Maybe. Maybe. I don't know.
I love it. So I know that we all enjoy the titles of your books, and you've named a few of them. Do you have any favorites?
A few favorite titles? One of my favorite titles is Little Shop of Hamsters.
Little Shop
It's
of
totally
Hamsters.
ridiculous.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
I like my favorite book, I think, is The Haunted Mass that I was talking about.
Yeah.
I think that's my best Halloween story.
Yeah.
And I like all the books with Slappy.
Yeah.
Because, and I've written a lot of the new Goosebumps books are called Goosebumps Slappy World, because Slappy is so
He's such
popular.
a prime character.
And
yeah.
I love writing him because he insults everybody. He's very rude.
It's great.
And that's fun to
That's
write.
great. So how do you come up with the titles, though? Is it like you
No,
said,
they
you're
just
walking
come to
them,
me.
they
That's
just come
that's
to you?
all I do.
Yeah.
To be honest, I
Yeah.
mean, and kids don't care about this,
Yeah.
but I don't even try to think of ideas anymore,
Yeah. They
because
just
I've
come
done
to you.
every story a person can do. I just try to think of titles.
Yeah.
And I'm doing a lot of Slappy books because he's so popular. And Slappy is the star of Goosebumps 2. He's the star of the new Goosebumps movie. Slappy's incredible in the movie.
That's great.
And I was trying to think, the newest Goosebumps book, I had this title, The Ghost of Slappy. I killed him.
And then brought him back as
I
a ghost.
killed him. But of course he comes back.
Yeah, yeah. So I understand you sometimes play games with students where you give us a quiz, whether it's a real title or a fake title. Should we play
Here's
a little
quiz. Here's a quiz, but let's do this. I want to see how much you really know about Goosebumps, okay? This is a list of Goosebumps titles. Some of them are real, some of them are fake. And let's see if you can tell which ones are real and which ones are fake, okay? Just shout it out. You just have to shout out fake or real, okay? Here we go. 1, Son of Slappy. So you're right. Yes, real. You're right. Real. All right, number 2. Number 2. You just have to shout it once. We'll be fine. Frosty the Abominable Snowman. Fake. That's fake. That's fake. Number 3, The Barking Ghost. Hey, you guys are good. Yeah, that's real. How about this one? Morons from Mars. Yeah, it's fake. That one's fake, but I would think that would make a great Goosebumps title. Hey, Morons from Mars, you know, and I sent that title to my editors, and I said, let's do a Goosebumps called Morons from Mars, and they said, well, you can't do that, you might offend the morons. So I couldn't do that one. Here, let's try this one. Number 5, It Came From My Nose. Fake. That one's fake. That one's fake.
But that's a good one, too.
Creature Teacher. Can't tell one thing. No, that one's real. That one's real. Attack of the 2,000-pound Dachshund. How about I'll Eat Your Breakfast? That's fake. That's fake too, but that would be a good title.
I was going to say, that's a great
I think
title.
that's scary, somebody eating your breakfast.
I think any
I
one
think
of
that
those.
would be. And then how about I Am Slappy's Evil Twin? Yeah, that one's real. That one's real. You guys are good.
Oh, I love
You guys
it.
are scary.
So, book titles do certainly give us a sense of a book's contents,
Okay,
but
quiet.
sometimes it helps to have a little bit more of a description of a book when you're deciding if it's a book you want to read or not. So you guys know when you go to a library and you look at your card catalog, not only do you get the title of a book, but you also get a description of the book that you're considering reading. So
Yeah,
later in that book, we learn a little bit more about Slappy. And like you mentioned earlier, that Slappy plays a starring role in an upcoming film.
Not an upcoming film, in Goosebumps 2,
That's right.
Haunted Halloween.
Haunted Halloween,
which
and
is-
it's going to be in
It's
theaters.
out a week from
I was
Friday.
going to say October the 12th.
Right.
So I'm curious, what's it like when... What is it like when your books
What's it like to be a
become
character in a
movies?
movie?
Yes, what's
To have
that
somebody
like?
playing you,
Yeah.
like Jack Black, what a weird thing. I sit there and they're talking about me in the movie. It's very strange.
Yeah.
I had a great time. Jack Black is a terrific guy. I'm so happy he plays me. We had a lot of fun together. And I went down, actually, I had my little 5-second cameo in the first film. And we went down and I shot it. We were in a school and I walk out and Jack's there and I say, "Hello, Mr. Stine." That's my line in the movie. I say,
You're
"Hello,
saying
Mr."
hello to yourself.
And he says, "Hello, Mr. Black." And we walked on. And that was my 5 seconds in the movie. And guess how many times they shot it? Guess how many?
3.
3? 25.
25.
They shot it 25 times.
That's great.
I couldn't believe it. And I was hungry. It was lunchtime. I wanted to go get lunch. And they kept shooting the scene over and over again. So I might be in the next one. I might be in the new one.
So we should look
They have
for
to look
you.
for me at the very end of the film.
great.
At the very end. It's Slappy in this one. It's a Halloween movie. It's Halloween time. And Slappy, in his evil way, decides to bring everything Halloween to life. He goes into a drugstore and he brings all the masks to life, and all the Halloween toys, and all the costumes, and all the witches' hats, and all the creatures, and everything comes to life. It's an amazing scene at the end of the new movie. Just all of Halloween everywhere. And I have to warn you that the scariest scene involves gummy bears. This is my favorite. No, this is my favorite. I know they're cute, right? You think they're cute. But in this movie, it's not too cute when gummy bears attack.
Yeah.
It's really pretty incredible. That's my favorite thing in the whole movie.
That's great.
So I hope everyone goes a week from Friday.
Week from Friday.
Goosebumps 2.
Haunted Halloween.
Yeah.
I have a hunch some of the students in our audience here might have some questions for you as well.
Well, that would be good. How are you going to do it?
Yeah.
You
so
need
we
somebody,
have-
because we can't
I was
hear.
gonna say,
We won't
so
be able to hear them.
We have 3 microphones
Oh,
that are
nice.
stationed in different parts of our theater.
Nice.
And our colleagues, Sasha and Kalina, I know, have a couple, and they are going to be asking students in their little quadrants of the theater if they have questions. So students, if you have a question, do raise your hand and let one of my friends with the microphones call on you. And when you ask your question, if you would start by saying your name and then ask your question, and the rest of us are going to listen for the answer, okay? And we also have the opportunity for those of you who are watching our program on the live stream, if you also have questions that you want to ask, you can go on Twitter and use the hashtag Goosebumps. And again, a colleague in our theater is reading those tweets so your questions can be answered as well. So, Kalina, how about you go ahead and find someone with a question?
Who has a question? Okay, let's see. Right here. Can you come on over? So tell us your name and then your question.
My name is Chris, and my question is, how old were you when you made your first book?
Great question.
How old was I when I made my first book?
Yep.
The first book I ever had published
Okay.
was called How to Be Funny. It was how to be funny in school and how to get big laughs at the dinner table. Parents hated this book. They hated it. And I was 28.
28.
Yeah,
All right.
I'd been writing since I was 9. I started writing, but I was 28 when I had my first book published.
Great. Excellent question. All right. Sasha, how about you? You've got a question?
We have a question from a family who's watching online at More Than a Homeschool Mom says, from my son, what was the hardest book for you to write and what was the easiest?
Yeah, I don't know if I have an answer. They're all pretty easy for me. I'm very lucky because I love to write so much, and it just comes so easily to me. I write 10 pages every day, and I never have trouble. I can always write my 10 pages a day. There was a Goosebumps book called Cry of the Cat that I had to write 3 times. Nobody liked it. That happens, once in a while that happens where I write a book and none of my editors like it, and they send it back.
Yeah,
and that one I had to write 3 times, so that was the hardest. But they're all, I'm just so lucky, it's so easy for me to write.
Okay.
Sasha, yeah.
My name is Kamani, and my question is, who is your favorite character in your Goosebumps movies and why?
My favorite characters, well, I really enjoy myself. I like Jack Black. No, don't clap for that. In the new movie, it's all new cast. It's all new kids, whole new family. And the 3 kids in the new movie, I think you'll really like them. And I think maybe you'll recognize some of them. The boy from It, he's in the film, and yeah. And they're just wonderful. They're a great part of the film. I think you'll like them.
Another good question. Okay.
My name is Sophia, and my question is, who is your favorite evil person from Goosebumps and why?
Here's my favorite monster in Goosebumps. How many of you ever read Welcome to Camp Jelly Jam? Do you know that one? Jelly Jam is this huge blob. He's a huge blob of, this is my smelly book. And he's horrible odor. He smells so bad, he has to be bathed 24 hours a day. So all the campers that come to his camp, that's what they do. They bathe him all day long and all night. And then finally, I'm going to spoil the ending for you. They get, I'm going to. Then they decide they've had it with him, it's enough, and they stop bathing him, and he dies from his own smell. That's my favorite.
I think there's a
I love
lesson
him.
in there somewhere. I love it.
I know, I love him.
All right. How about up there?
Okay, what is your name and your question?
I'm Sabella, and my question is, what were your favorite and your least favorite books you've ever written?
Those are hard. These are hard questions. I have a lot of Goosebumps books that I'm very proud of that I really like. And there's one, a fairly recent one called Attack of the Jack. And it's about jack-o'-lanterns that come to life. But I really like this. I like this book because there's a talking cat in it. There's a talking cat in the book, and I can't believe they let me get away with that. So that's one of my favorites. Then there's some that are, I don't really like that much. I shouldn't talk about this, but there's a Goosebumps book called The Barking Ghost that I don't think is very good.
Our next question. So tell us.
Selena, you've got
My
another
name
one.
is Jerome Wood. I'm from Plummer, and my question was, after
Who has a
Goosebumps
question?
2
Selena,
gets
we can't hear that.
after Goosebumps 2 gets old, are you going to make a third one?
What?
I think he asked if after
What did he ask?
Goosebumps, the Goosebumps
After the second
2,
movie, is there gonna
are
be a
you going to
third
have
one?
a third movie?
Well, I hope so. People have to come to this one. If everyone comes to this one, I think they'll want to make another one, right?
Right.
If people don't go, I think that'll be it, 1 and 2. You never know. I would love to do more movies.
Okay. Sasha?
We have a question on Twitter at Mike G. Real wants to know, what is the greatest piece of advice you would give to an author just starting out?
The best advice I would give, I never give advice. I never give advice because I always think people who are going to become authors and really want to be authors are like me. And they just write all the time. They're always writing. And you don't have to tell them, why don't you write? You don't have to tell them to read a lot because they do. I always think they're like me and they don't need advice. They just want to keep writing and writing and getting better. So I never give advice.
Really good. All right. How about another
My name's
question?
Theo. Okay, it's Theo. My name's Theo, and my question is, what is your favorite scene in the original Goosebumps movie?
That's a nice question. To be serious, my favorite scene is in the abandoned amusement park when the two teenagers, Dylan Minnette and Adea Rush, are up on top of the Ferris wheel, just sitting and talking together. I just think that's a really sweet scene. And I love that scene. I just think they're so terrific. That's my favorite scene in the first movie.
That's a great question.
I've never been asked that question. That's a first.
Ready?
My name is Tara, and if you made a new Goosebumps book, what would it be?
The one I just started before I came down here yesterday, I just started a Goosebumps book called The Dummy Meets the Mummy. You can kind of guess what that's about, right?
I like that sneak peek. How about back here?
My name is Bryce, and my question is, how did you invent Slappy, and why is it so popular?
Why is that? That's a good question. That I couldn't answer. When I was a kid, I loved puppets, and I had marionettes, and I was just very interested. I would do puppet shows and things. But I was always just very interested in that. When I was this is a horrible story. Here's a terrifying story. When I was really little, I was so little, I still had to take a nap. And my mother would read a chapter of a book to me before my nap every day. And I'm this tiny guy, and for some reason, she chose to read the original Pinocchio to me. And so I'm tiny, ready for my nap, and she reads this chapter of Pinocchio, and in the chapter, Pinocchio he's a wooden puppet. Pinocchio is a wooden puppet. He falls asleep with his feet on the stove, and he burns his feet off. I never forgot that.
I wonder if your nap was very good that day.
I don't know if my nap was good or not that day, but I never forgot that, and I've always just been interested in puppets, and I think that's how Slappy came to be. It's funny how much Slappy looks like Jack Black these days. He's kind of changed, hasn't he? Do we have time for a couple more? I think we might be losing them.
Kalina, how about this one right here?
Who has a really good question?
My name's Steffi, and what's your favorite part of a book out of all of your books?
My favorite part of what?
A book out of all of your books that you've written.
My
that you
favorite
wrote.
part?
Of
Well,
any
you know
book
what
that you've
I
read.
like the ending. It means I'm done. I like the ending. That's right.
Great answer.
Who has a really good question?
Sasha in the back.
Hi, my name is Phoenix, and I was wondering, what inspired you to create Goosebumps?
What inspired me to do the book series? Is that the question?
Yes.
I was doing a series for teens. I was doing a scary book series for teenagers, which I'm still doing, called Fear Street. And it was teens in terror and horrible things happening to anybody who moved to Fear Street. And my editors came to me and said, why don't we do a scary book series for younger kids? And I, of course, said no. I didn't want to do Goosebumps. That's the kind of businessman I am. right? And they said, no one's done it, let's try it. And so I said, okay, if I can think of a good name for the series, then maybe we can try a couple. And one day I was reading TV Guide, and in those days, that had the program listings in the middle of the magazine. It told you what was on TV. And I'm going through the magazine, and there was a tiny ad at the bottom of the page, and it said, it's Goosebumps week on Channel 11. And I just stared at it. There it was. I said, that's perfect. We'll call it Channel 11. That's a bad joke. I apologize. That's a very bad joke. But that's where the name Goosebumps came from. And then we tried it.
That's perfect.
We're losing them here, I think.
I kind of think that maybe one more question and we're good.
We have
How
one
about
online.
right back here. Okay. Here. Okay,
My
one
name-
more. This one and then
One
one
more.
online. Perfect.
All right.
My name is Travis, and my question is, I go make new Goosebumps book from the new movie Goosebumps 2 from the new characters.
What?
I didn't hear the
Are
question.
we doing
part.
what? Say it again.
From the new Goosebumps movie, I go make the book from the new characters in the new Goosebumps movie.
Yeah, well, there is a book. There are 2 books out about the new movie. And they both tell the story with the new characters and everything. It's all new characters. Yeah, there are 2 books.
All right.
I think that.
Sasha?
We have a final question from our friends watching online. At Funnel Dog, Stephen Lambert says, my daughter's only 8 months old, so she has a little time before we get to Goosebumps. But I remember them clearly. Remember the bookstore, the first shelf where I picked up my first, The Parking Ghost. Any recommendations for her first Halloween costume based on your books?
Well,
That's perfect. That's perfect.
she's 8 months old?
A little
Her
early.
First Halloween costume.
Yeah, right.
Based
Well,
on
I
your
will
books.
tell you, my grandson Dylan, when he was 2, he's 4 now. When my grandson Dylan was 2 years old, he was going out for Halloween as Slappy. And I have Slappy in my apartment. I have the dummy.
Yeah.
And the clothes, Slappy's clothes, fit my grandson. They fit Dylan perfectly. So we took the clothes off the dummy, and Dylan went out for Halloween as Slappy, wearing Slappy's clothes.
Perfect.
That's pretty good, right?
That's perfect.
I know. He never gave them back,
I
though.
was going to say, yeah.
Poor Slappy now doesn't have a shirt or anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know about costumes for an 8-month-old.
That's great. Oh, this has been so much fun.
This has been great. Thank you all so much. Thank you.